Hi, this is David Roscoff. Today we're going to go over CSS selectors. To start off with, go ahead and go to mormon.org, and that's the page we're going to be working with today. And if you go to, if you're using, we're going to use Firefox, and we're also going to use FirePath, which is an add-on to Firebug. So you want to make sure that you add those on. You can just go to the menu, go to add-ons, and then again, you just want to do Firebug and FirePath. Once you've installed those, if you go to mormon.org, we're going to go ahead and click on People. And we're going to click on Meet Mormons today. Now, a couple things to note about CSS. CSS is very powerful. The reason why we use CSS is because CSS allows us to be able to find elements faster. XPath is very usable, very robust and great, but it's not as fast as using CSS selectors. The time difference is pretty dramatic, so whenever possible, use CSS over XPath. So because it's so powerful, you have to understand how to use it, of course, so that's why we're here today. So CSS selectors are pretty easy. I have a few. To go start out, we'll go ahead and select something by the class. So let's say that I wanted to find all of the navigation menus. So everything that has a class of nav title text. There's a few ways to do it. The easiest is just to say nav title text. The period at the beginning says I'm looking for a class, and then whatever's after it, it's going to be the name of the class. So if I do this, then I'll select everything that has a class of nav title text, and as you see on the page, there are quite a few of those entries there. The other thing I can do is I can say I want to search for everything that has, I can also link them. So I can say I want everything that's under the div class nav title. So I could just say dot nav item and nav title. And again, that'll give me everything that's under here and under here. The other thing we can do is we can tell it, I want this class, but I want you to select the first span after it. All you do is type span. The dot essentially is the same as also doing this. You can also select, so you can say I'm looking for a span with the class attribute equal to nav title. Oh. And it will find it that way as well. So there's a lot of different ways, but basically the format is you have your, you either have your shorthand. So your shorthand is going to be period for class, a tag or a pound sign for ID, and you can also do a, or you can just type in the tag element itself. So I can say span, and then in the span I'd have brackets, and I could say I want the class attribute equals to country indicator. Sorry, my classes are a little more specific than that. And just when you think you have it right, you don't. So I can say, again, oh, it's because of the div. Class equals country indicator. So that's kind of how CSS goes. If you're going to do things like drop downs, Like for instance here, it's pretty helpful because I can, so if you're looking for a child of something, you just do a space. So I can say gender space option with the value equals M, and that'll find me the male underneath genders. If I don't do the space, it'll fail because it'll just find it's all one thing. If I'm looking for multiple things on the same line, I can just add it at the end. So for instance, this one here has the ID of genders, but also has its class. If I wanted to search by both, I could just say enter search, hit enter, and it finds the exact same one. So you can be very specific, very general. Um, the main things to note about CSS selectors is they're very hierarchical. I mean, you can go down to children, it'll find any related children. And it has a problem going up to parents, so, or searching for kind of the parent of a child. You know, if you're navigating along, like if I wanted to, based on this option, select this UL class in the first LI, I can do that. Whereas with XPath, I could. The other thing right now is you can't really find the inner text, so I can't search for the option that has selected gender or the option that has male. I just don't have that ability with CSS selectors. So inner text is another big problem, which is another reason why you might use XPath. But if all you need is to be able to navigate tags and options and values, CSS selectors are very fast and they're very powerful, and they'll help you get through that. Other things you could do as well is I do have a few conditional statements. For instance, if I did a squiggly line, that means I'm looking for every class that contains enter search. If I did a pipe, it would be I'm looking for every class that begins with enter search. If I did star, I would be looking for every element whose class attribute value contains a substring schools. So that kind of hopefully helps you to understand how that works. And to kind of verify the difference here. So let me to demonstrate this. If I go, for instance, ethnicities, and in ethnicities, let's say I was looking for the option of with a value of ASI. If I did that, I would get two. I would get Asian and Caucasian. Whereas, and that's with the substring, that's the asterisk. However, if I did the squiggly line, which is more of containing the word, and containing a word would fail because there's no word of ASI. When you do containing the word, it actually has to have a space in between the value. So for instance, maybe if I was doing a class that had multiple class names, or this one here, like this one, if I was looking for well, HTML might be a bad example there. Let me do a different tag editor in HTML if I can find one. I believe there's, oh, here's one. So you see how this one has a space. So here I could select everything with the, class attribute equals main content. I'll get nothing. But if I add the squiggly line at the beginning, it'll give me everything that has that word main content. And you see how there's a space in between there. But if I just set it main, it would break. But if I change that to an asterisk for a substring, it would then give me everything that contains main. So hopefully that kind of helps you understand how to work with CSS selectors. If you have any questions, feel free to email me again, droskopf@gmail.com. I'm always happy to answer people's questions and help them understand where they might be going wrong. The only thing to note between XPath and CSS, main differences is one of the main differences is what remember is that in XPath, when you're defining the attribute, you have an @ symbol, where with CSS selectors you don't. That's another note to make as you're coding. A lot of times when people are coding, they'll wonder why it's not working, and it should be working. And it's oftentimes because they're doing an XPath and they forgot the @ attribute for declaring it. Or if they're doing CSS, they put the @ sign and they forget that they don't need it. So I hope that was informative. Hopefully it'll help you to get more familiar with selectors and how to select your find by methods.